I'm so excited to tell you guys about this incredibly unique, obscure, and progressive fairy tale that is even possibly transgender affirming. There is a folktale type called the shift of sex, in which the main character at some point, usually the end, changes gender. I was aware of this folktale type and knew a couple of the stories, but I was not aware of this particular Romanian story, sometimes called Ileana Simziana, sometimes called the princess who would be a prince, sometimes Ileana of the golden tresses, sometimes just the girl who pretended to be a boy. It was written down in the 1800s by a Romanian folklorist and then translated into French, where it became popular and ended up in Andrew Lang's Violet Book of Fairy Tales. It starts with this emperor who's a great conqueror, and for years and years and years he just wages war everywhere. And one of the things he requires from the countries that he conquers is that they send him a son of the king to serve him for 10 years. Our main king is fighting this guy and he's tired of war, so he's like, I need to send a son. Only problem, he doesn't have a son, he has 3 daughters. 3 daughters want to help him. And so the first daughter is like, I'm a girl, but I'm not useless. I'm gonna go. What's important about her choices is that she chooses the finest, most flashy, gorgeous horse in the stables. She sets off, and in a twist, none of the daughters knew that their father is actually a magician. And he wants to test her because he doesn't think she can do it. So he creates a bridge of copper over a river that she's gonna have to cross and turns himself into a wolf. She gets scared, the horse jumps, she immediately turns tail, goes back to the palace, and he meets her there and he's like, I guess you're not brave enough, are you? As is always the case in fairy tales, exact same thing happens with the second sister. Well, finally our girl, the third daughter, says, I'm gonna go out there, I'm gonna get the better of the wolf. Now, instead of picking the youngest, flashiest horse, she picks her father's old war horse. He can talk and he says, I am too old and I'm dying. And she's like, well, what can I do for you? He says, I must be rubbed down morning and evening with rainwater, my barley must be boiled in milk, and my feet must be washed in oil. She's like, I will do that for you. And he says, you're not gonna regret that. And she doesn't, because she does that for 2 weeks, and then one morning he wakes up with a sudden shiver through his limbs, and he's big, strong, shining, beautiful, and ready to go with her. This shows her character and how she's different. Not only is she caring for a creature in need, but it's dedication and respect for the older generation or the horse that has seen things and knows what she is up against. She also doesn't pack like shining armor, just small boys' clothes, just enough food and linen that she needs, and she heads off. She charges that wolf on the bridge with her sword out, and it said her blood was up and the light of battle was in her eyes. So the dad retreats, but then he goes down the road a little further and he fights her as a lion, and she doesn't back down. Goes even further, fights her as a multi-headed dragon. She still doesn't back down. So then he transforms back into her dad, and it says that the horse had told her that it was her dad, but she didn't really believe it till he transforms, which I get. And he's like, you've proven me, you're the bravest of the brave and the wisest of the wise. Go on and do this task. Goes on her way to the other king's castle, and on the way she sees this lock of golden hair in the road, and she talks to her horse and she's like, should I just leave that alone or should I take it? And the horse is like, I think you should take it. You will thank me later. So she does, and she goes to the court dressed as a man, and everyone greets her and likes her. There's a part where it even says that the pages wonder why they feel such an attraction towards this young man. While she's staying at the palace, it turns out she's a better cook than like anyone else there. You know, 'cause woman. But there's one night where all of the palace cooks get so drunk they can't cook, so they come to her and they're like, will you please save us? And she cooks the meal and everyone's like, oh my God, thank you. But when the king declares it's the best food he's ever had and really starts loving on our protagonist because he finds out it was really her who did it, all of the other guys get jealous. They want to get rid of our protagonist with some hard tasks. So they have seen the golden lock and tell the emperor, and the emperor is like, hey, I really want you to go kidnap the owner of that hair for me. Her name is Ileana Simziana. That's our title. And yeah, bring her to me or I'm going to cut off your head. So Ileana has already been kidnapped by a giant, and the giant's super in love with her and wants to marry her, but she doesn't want to marry him. So to put him off, she said that he has to bring her these magical horses that belong to her and are off in the world somewhere. So while the giant's off trying to find those horses, our protagonist is supposed to go kidnap this girl for the emperor. She succeeds by basically tempting her onto her boat with rumors of these beautiful golden shoes, and the princess comes on the boat to look at the shoes, and then, oop, the boat's taking off. But it says, when the princess did know, she rejoiced in her heart, though she pretended to weep and lament at being carried captive a second time. She's like a super damsel getting kidnapped twice, but she's glad about it. But there's another cool badass fight where basically the giant's mom comes after them, and our girl is able to, with magic and cunning, defeat the giant's mom. and with the help of Ileana. They kind of work together to defeat her. But when they get to the emperor, the princess says, I don't want to marry him, so I'm going to give 3 life-threatening tasks that he has to perform before I'll marry him. And of course, the emperor gives these tasks to our protagonist. One of the tasks is to go get those magic horses that the giant was supposed to get, which our protagonist succeeds in doing. And in one weird part, when she brings all the magic horses back, they've gotten wounded, but they magically heal their wounds. The emperor's like, I need you to milk all of the horses so that the princess and I can bathe in the milk and stay young forever. But the horses won't let anyone but our protagonist milk them. And like, as time goes on, this princess is really liking our protagonist, and our protagonist likes her. So the last task the princess gives to the emperor, because again, she doesn't want to marry him, is to get a flask of holy water kept in a little church beyond the river Jordan. So the emperor sends our protagonist to go do it, but remember, she listens to her magic horse, and the horse tells her this place is guarded by a troop of nuns that never sleep. Terrifying. But a monk or a hermit comes to visit them every now and then, and when that happens, only one stands guard, and so we gotta go then. So the one nun on guard falls asleep because it's super hot that day, and so they're able to steal the water. Our protagonist and the horse run off, but like, the nuns immediately know what's up, and they and the hermit chase after them, but they can't catch them. So when the hermit realizes he can't catch her, he fell on his knees and prayed the most deadly curse down upon her head, praying that if the thief was a man, he might become a woman, and if she was a woman, might become a man. It said in either case, he thought that the punishment would be severe. And this is an actual quote from the story and the most beautiful part. But punishments are things about which people do not always agree. And when the princess suddenly felt she was really the man she had pretended to be, she was delighted. And if the hermit had only been within reach, she would have thanked him from her heart. So she, now he, returns and is going by the name Fet Fruners, who is a standard hero in Romanian folklore. And this is kind of the origin story. He's like the Prince Charming, King Arthur sort of character. Now, Ileana is not having the emperor. She's like, you didn't do any of this stuff for me. This guy did. So she's like, hey, emperor, let's take another milk bath. She gets him in. They're standing in the milk up to their necks. She makes a secret sign to our protagonist's horse, who again is magic, and he breathed fresh air from his nostril over Ileana, and from the other, a burning wind that shriveled up the emperor where he stood, leaving only a pile of ashes. The princess says, Fet Fruners, it is you who brought me joy and saved my life and obeyed my wishes. I want to marry you. And so Fet Fruners, previously the princess, marries the princess, becomes king, and they live happily ever after. Now, you could argue that this climactic change of gender roles really just enforces heteronormativity and specific gender roles, like to be the hero, our heroine has to be a man. But the fact that the patriarchal figures, the emperor in this, is a bad guy, and the fact that subverting gender norms gets our protagonist a happy ending, plus that beautiful passage where it says she felt she'd been a male the whole time, makes it feel more subversive and more feminist and more gender affirming and trans affirming to me. The protagonist defies gender roles, changes gender, and is rewarded. There are other versions of this, like a Moldovan tale, Prince Theodore and the Magic Stag. It's a cool one where the protagonist goes on the quest for the father dressed as a man, comes across a dragon and a stag that both ask her to help, and she chooses to help the stag and not the dragon, and that works out. She also rescues a maiden, gets cursed to be a man, and marries her and lives happily ever after. There's one from North Macedonia where the girl's pretending to be a man when she gets married to the princess and puts a sword between them in bed, so you know, nothing gay can happen. And eventually she gets transformed into a man and takes over the kingdom too. If you're interested in gender swapping in fairy tales, I have another video about cross-dressing in fairy tales, but those tales do not end with someone actually changing their gender. These do, and that's kind of cool. Check out my book and my podcast, link in the bio.